See the penguins now?
Yeah. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants live from Antarctica with Jean Pennycook. As you can see, the guest of honors are already on the screen. Jean made it out there. The weather looks beautiful right now. Jean, how is it over there? So, classrooms joining in. We're just going to have to be patient today. It is broadcasting from Antarctica, so we're going to have good moments and we're going to have slower moments like this one now. So Jean, can you still hear me right now?
I can.
Yeah, we're just wrestling with the sound.
I can hear you.
All right, boys and girls, just bear with us and the viewers who are joining in. We're in the colony, but the signal's lagging quite a bit. So what I might try to do is the next time that Jean can hear me, I'll see if she can leave and come back in and see if that gives us a little portion of time with a better signal.
I can hear you really
well right
now, Joe. I heard all of that.
Oh, awesome. Jean, do you want to tell us just a little bit about yourself while we're kind of looking at the penguins?
Right. Right. So do you want me to talk about the penguins a little bit?
Yeah, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about the penguins and what you're doing there.
Oops. What did I do? Oops. So do you want me to talk about the penguins?
Please, yeah. Go ahead, Jean. So right now we're actually getting some good video, but we've lost the sound.
That's me right there, the one that looks like a pillar.
Classrooms who are watching, who have joined on screen, your cameras are off, but can you just send me a message just so I know if you can see the penguins or not? I can see them on my end, but I just want to make sure the other classes can see them too. So if you can just send me a message in the group chat to tell me if you can see the penguins on Jean's screen right now.
How many names around here? Oh my God, look at Jerry's running. Well, you can see.
Jean, can you hear me? We're getting a really good picture right now, Jean, but I don't think you can hear us.
I heard that. I can hear you now.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's take a stab here and see if we can get a question from a classroom. So, Mrs. Klein's classroom.
She has a question. Yes. Can you hear us?
We can hear you.
Okay. Here's your question, Alice.
So, about how many penguins are there in a colony? You hear me?
Did you get our ask again?
About how many penguins are there in a colony?
Yeah, I can't hear any question. I see a different icon on the screen, but I don't hear the question.
So, Jean,
maybe what I'll do, if you can hear me, maybe I'll just talk about the penguins a little bit. Is that?
Go for it, Jean. Yeah. If you can hear us, Jean, just talk about the penguins. That sounds good.
Maybe he'll answer it later.
Line by the seat of your pants.
Sorry, boys and girls. We're getting picture, but the sound just won't catch up. If I can get Jean one more time. Oh, Jean, can you go ahead and talk about the penguins?
Can you hear?
Can you hear?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Jean. Yes, I can hear you.
Well, okay. How about
Just go ahead and talk about the penguins.
if I just talk about the penguins a little bit?
Yeah. Mrs. Klein, can you please mute your microphone for me too?
We are at the southernmost colony of penguins in the entire world. These are penguins that must live on ice. So you will rarely, whoops, there's a little bit of a fight going on here. Because they require ice and a cold climate, so most zoos can't keep them. They come up to about my knee. They're the classic tuxedo penguin. You'll see this image in many commercials and on Christmas cards and things like that. And they weigh about 12 pounds. Right now in the colony, the birds are nesting, so it's very quiet. You see them sitting on nests. Each one of these birds that is laying down, mate of the one laying down, or one have faced with two make a nest, like this one right in front of me. He's just a failed breeder, we call him. He didn't make a nest, didn't get a mate, and has no eggs. And here comes a box from an abandoned nest. They do that to take to their own nest. So today in Antarctica, it's a brilliantly clear, sunny, warm, but still hot degrees. These birds have to find a place in Antarctica without any ice, and there's not very many places in the whole country. This just happens to be one of them. And the reason there's no ice here is because it's really it's quite cold for us. So we're out here. We monitor the penguins for about 2.5 months. We weigh their chicks when they're born and see how this year's crop of chicks is doing. We sit on a rock and we monitor what they're feeding the chicks. We mark down in our notebooks whether it's krill, if it's silver. We also look for whales and see what the whale population is doing. Yesterday we had our penguin count, so we counted every penguin in the colony to see how many are here, and we do it the same day every year, so that's part of our work. We also put bands on them when they're chicks, and the bands have a number, and it's on their wing, and that's how we follow their lives, because we can read the number and see how old they are when they come back to breed, how many times they breed, how long they live, and things like that. So that's part of our research. So it's a wonderful career to have. I hope that some of you are sitting in your classrooms and thinking that to be a field biologist and work with animals in the wild is a great career, and that's because it is. Even if you don't want to be cold in Antarctica, there are jobs all over the world for people like me who want to be outside and work with wild animals. And there's lots of mysteries to be solved. We need lots of mysteries. Come through okay?
Jean, that came through really well. We heard you really well with that.
Oh, great. Okay.
Jean, I
can hear you. Yeah.
Good. I have questions coming from the classrooms. Okay. So classrooms joining, do you want to just type questions for now in the chat sidebar? So one question that came in was, how many penguins are in a colony?
In this colony, there are about 4,000. We just counted them yesterday. But there's a colony about 20 miles away, and there's 30,000 penguins. And there's another colony about 40 miles away with 500,000 penguins. So this is a relatively small colony right in front of us here.
Okay. So the classrooms who are joining in, I think we've got a nice little window here. Would you mind just typing your questions into the chat sidebar? So there's a little blue icon in the top left toolbar on the left side of your page called chat, if you type your questions there. So Jean, here's another one. How long does it take to get to Antarctica?
It takes us about a week. But by the time I leave Los Angeles, I have to fly to Sydney, Australia, then New Zealand, and then military transport to the ice, and all of that takes about a week. It's a very long journey with lots of stops and layovers and things I have to do. Then I take a helicopter out to the colony, and that takes another few days to organize and sort all that out. So it's a process.
All right, next question that came in is, how do the penguins stay warm?
These penguins have a lot of fat on them, and they also have a big fat layer of feathers. So you're looking at this bird right in front of me, and it looks like it's a big bird. The body actually isn't that big. If I took my finger and I poked it through the feathers, it would be almost an inch of feathers all over this bird's body. So that's how they keep warm and dry.
All right, great questions coming in. Here comes another one. Do their penguins use their wings for anything besides swimming?
Yes, they do. They use them to attack their neighbors or me if I get too close. So they're used as weapons. And being hit with one is like being hit as hard as you can with a ping pong paddle. They're very sturdy and dense, and they hit them. They go very, very fast. We call it flipper bashing, and it hurts. And they can draw. They're attacking other.
All right. Another classroom is wondering, are penguins prey to any animals?
Yes, they are. In the water is an animal called a leopard seal, and these birds are the main food for the leopard seal. The leopard seal hangs out underneath the ice and waits for the penguins, and then they grab them. So it's very sad to see that, but the leopard seals have to eat as well, and they're protected, and this is their food source.
All right. Another class, so we have Mrs. Klein's class. They're wondering, what inspired you to take this job?
Well, I have always liked to work with wild animals, and I always like to be outside in remote areas, and this sort of fit the bill. There's nothing better than working with penguins, and Antarctica is an extraordinary, amazing, amazing place. So as you look around here, you notice that there are absolutely no plants, no grass, no trees, no nothing. There is nothing here except rock and ice. That is it. So it's a very different environment, and I like it here. And I love the penguins.
All right, it's easy to see why. So Mr. Greenfield's class in New Jersey is wondering, where do you sleep? Do you sleep in a house, in an igloo, in a tent? Where do you sleep?
We sleep in a tent. It's like a camping tent. There's something you'd take in a mountain to camp in. It's called a Scott tent, though. Looks like a little pyramid. It's made out of very sturdy canvas, and I have to rock it down, with many, many rocks, because the winds here are very fierce. And I have no heat in the tent, but I sleep in a lot of clothing and a big, giant. One of the hard things every day is to get out of my sleeping bag because it's so warm and cozy, and it's really cold in my tent. And then we have another tent that's a work tent that we have keep our computers in, and that has a little bit of heat in it. So the tent, we have a work tent and sleep tents.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we have this little window here. So Mrs. Bennett's classroom, they're grade 1s, I believe. They're wondering how many chicks, how many young do the penguins have?
These penguins have 2 eggs. If you've seen the movie March of the Penguins, that was the emperor penguin, and they only lay 1 egg because they hold the egg on their feet to incubate it. But these guys build a nest, and all the other penguin species build nests, and all the other penguin species have 2 eggs. Most of these birds will raise both those chicks. Now, that doesn't always happen in the other species, but in this species, probably they'll raise 2 chicks. It's not for sure, but it's likely that they'll raise both of them.
Okay, Mrs. Thiessen's class, grade 3s in British Columbia, they're wondering if penguin species ever intermix. Can they crossbreed?
They do not crossbreed. We've never seen that, but they do breed together in the same colony. We see that up on the Antarctic Peninsula. The chinstraps, the gentoos, and the Adélies, they hang around each other, but they don't interbreed.
Okay. Mrs. Klein's classroom, they're a group from San Jose, and they're wondering how long have you worked with penguins, and how long will you stay with them this season?
So I've been with this project for 10 years, and I've never get tired of it. It's a great project to be on. I've been in Antarctica 14 years. I worked on other projects, and we're out here for about 2.5 months. We try to get here before the eggs are laid, and we leave as soon as the chicks are ready to be on their own and after we put their bands on them. So we get here about the middle of October, and then we leave around the middle of January. So it's about 2.5 months.
All right. Mrs. Stouffer's class in Florida, they're wondering, they're a grade 2 class, and they're wondering why the penguins don't run away from you.
That's a great question. One of the fun things about working with these penguins is that they don't run away from us. They're not afraid of us because they have no predators on the land. Their only predator is in the water, so they're not afraid of anything on the land, and they're used to me being here as well. They don't like to be touched. If I were, that bird right in front of me is about 2 feet from me, and if I reached over to touch him, he would attack, but he's willing to have me sit here because he knows that I won't harm him.
Okay.
See if I can get a little closer. Eggs.
We have
Hi,
another
buddy.
question. How many species of penguins are there?
There are 17 species of penguins around the world, and all of them live below the equator. So there are no penguins north of the equator.
Okay. Our grade ones, Mrs. Bennett's class, they're wondering, what are they feeding the young? What do you see them feeding the young?
We see them eat krill, which is a small shrimp-like creature, and small fish. The fish are called the Antarctic silverfish, and they're about as big as an adult's index finger. Easy for the birds to catch in their mouths and swallow whole, and then they regurgitate that to their young.
Our grade fives in New Jersey, they're wondering, what do the penguins do all day besides lying down and taking care of the babies?
Well, they are out on the ice looking for food, or they're resting. So these guys, when they're out looking for food, that's a very energetically costly activity. They're in cold water and they're swimming around. So they do that, they get full of food, and then they come here and sort of rest. Now these birds are not resting, they're incubating their eggs, although they're not moving around. But so people think they're sleeping. They're not. They are taking very good care of their eggs.
Okay. Another
Let's see if
question.
I can get this one to stand up.
Sure.
Can you stand up first? Okay. Joe, if you can hear me, I lost you.
I can still hear you. Yep. You're just getting the one to stand up, so we can keep going with some questions.
Okay.
One just popped in from the class in San Jose, Mrs. Klein's class. They're wondering, why are they flapping and looking up like that? When that one stood up, why did it flap and look up like that?
He's just exercising. He's straightening his feathers. They do that a lot. It sort of fluffs their feathers up, and then when they are fluffed up and he sleeks them down again, it's just sort of resetting stuff. And he was a little agitated at me because I am a little bit close. You can see my shadow there. He's a little bit agitated at me. He's not afraid. He's not running away.
It's just amazing to see them just, they're keeping their eye on you, but they're not too worried.
Yeah.
Let's see.
No, they're not. Yeah.
Mrs. Thiessen's class, the grade 3s, are wondering, how big is a penguin's brain?
Question. He's starting to preen. This is a preening behavior where he's cleaning his feathers.
Did you catch that last question, Jean? It was, what size is the penguin's brain?
Oh, what size of the penguin's brain? Well, I'm afraid to tell you that these guys aren't very smart. And their brain is very small, probably not a whole lot bigger than your thumb. This is a walnut. They're not too smart. They are birds after all.
All right, fair enough. Let's see, scanning my questions. Our class in Florida is wondering how tall they can get.
These birds get up to about my knee, about 14, 15 inches. So they're not very big, but they're extremely strong animals, and you don't want to make them mad.
All right, Mr. Greenfield's class, they're wondering, can you tell us a little bit about your living conditions? Like, they're kind of wondering, is there a grocery store nearby? What are your living conditions like there?
Well, there's no grocery store for probably 5,000 miles. We live in a tent. It's like camping, and I have to pee in a no running water, and there's no electricity. But I do have wireless internet, and it's very cold. I can't take a shower. I can't wash my hair for the whole 2.5 months that I'm out here. It's very rustic, and I can't go anywhere. If I want to go someplace, I have to walk, or I call the helicopters, but the helicopters are very, very expensive, so we don't do that. If I need food, I contact the research station, and they'll send me canned food or frozen food. But we try not to do that. We try to bring with us all the food that we need without having to call for help. If you need to call for it, a little bit of bad form that you weren't prepared.
So, Jean, I have some of my students joining today as well. They're a grade 6 or a grade 7 class, and they're just wondering, how do you charge your equipment? How do you charge your gear?
We use a solar panel, and the solar panel is just enough to keep our cameras, my computer, and our radios going, and that is it. We have no other electrical coffee maker or a microwave, nothing like that. It's the solar panel is about as big, maybe as big as like 2 of your desks at school, and it's just enough to keep the stuff, the computers, cameras, and radios going.
Okay. Our class in Surrey, BC, they're wondering, when the penguins go out for a swim, how long are they gone for when they're off on a mission to get food?
Well, that is a very good question, and that was part of our study. And that is that we put little things on their backs, and it tells us when they're coming and going. But also the ones with the bands, so we know when they're not here and we know when they come back. The problem with the bands is we don't know if they're out feeding, so that's why I put thumb and we barrette in your hair, and we leave it there for a few days to see how long they're out feeding and how deep they dive and how many dives they have to make to get the food they need. We call them TD, time depth recorders, TDRs, and they're very expensive, but that's how we know how long, and it's usually a few days. They're gone for like 2 or 3 days at a time.
All right, that was a great question. How many hours of sunlight are you receiving right now?
Well, I got here, this year I didn't get here till about the middle of November, and
All right, classrooms, we've lost sound. We'll give it another minute. Jean, are you back? All right, well, we'll give another minute. We had a really good 20-minute window there. We'll see if things will clear up for us again in a second. I love the questions coming in on the chat sidebar. And I'm excited for this session too. Just looking down at the bottom, we've got at least 20 plus other classrooms who are just watching the live feed. So a shout out and a hi to you guys. Jean, can you hear me? Awesome, you're back. We lost the question about the time of day or the length of the day. So it cut out right when you said you arrived in the end of November.
Okay, so I get here this year I got here at the beginning of November, and I'll leave the middle of January, and I will never see the sun set. It will look like this, what you're looking at right now, for the entire time I'm here. The sun never goes down.
And then we have a class. Here's a two-part question. This is one from one class and one from another. The one is, how cold is it there? This is from our grade ones, Mrs. Bennett's class. And then our class from BC is also wondering what you do for fun. Can you connect with your family?
I can connect with my family. I can call them on our satellite phone, or I can email them, or I can Skype them. So I do that. And for fun, I read, and I go for walks, and for fun, I sit and watch the penguins. I think it's fun to do this, so it's what I do for fun in addition to my work. Oh, and how cold is it? Oh, today it's about -5 degrees.
That's not bad. We're here in Canada, and so we're just above zero, but I think in the next few weeks we're going to dip quite below that as our winter sets in.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Mrs. Klein's class is wondering, how long does it take for an egg to hatch? So maybe the incubation period.
The incubation period for this species is about 31 days, so about a month. And we're halfway through that period. Most of these eggs are laid within a week of each other, and then they're going to hatch within a week of each other because our summer here is so short. So we have about 2 weeks, and then they'll start to hatch, and that's a great time. It's great to have the chicks running around.
Our grade 2s in Florida are wondering, how long can the penguins hold their breath for? Can they stay underwater?
These penguins can hold their breath for about
All right, so maybe our luck's run out, but I think we did pretty well for the call that we were attempting for today. So we'll maybe give Jean one more minute and maybe hit her with one more question if she does come back. But then after that, maybe we'll wrap the session for today. So again, I want to thank all the viewers who are just watching over YouTube today. I want to thank our classrooms who joined in to ask the questions through the chat sidebar. I wish we could have used voice today, but we did have to save broadband to make sure this call could take place. So let's give Jean another moment and see if she comes back in.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay, so Jean, we'd lost you. You were just starting to answer the question. Maybe we'll do one or two more questions and we'll let you go for the day. But the question was about how long they could breathe underwater, or sorry, hold their breath underwater.
Okay. Penguins can hold minutes. Big birds, they can hold their breath for about 20 minutes. So these guys not so much, but about 5 minutes.
Okay, and then maybe we'll wrap. So I have a question here from one of the classrooms asking about the importance of counting the babies and counting the adults. Can you tell us a little bit about the importance of your research?
It's important to know what's happening for these birds, because as our climate changes, we want to see how they're responding. It's also important to know the life cycle of these birds because we want to protect them. We need to know what they eat so we can protect their food source. And we need to know what they need as far as a habitat so we can protect that. We have chosen to protect these animals, so we need to know about them to learn how to do that. So that's what we do.
Well, Jean, you're amazing, and thank you so much for taking the time to connect with us today. I'm so glad we got this nice window. The weather cooperated. For the most part, the technology cooperated. And I'm really excited to connect again on the 9th. Only this time we'll connect from your tent and talk a little bit about living and working in Antarctica.
Okay. All righty. Okay, well, thank you. Okay, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you so much for your patience. Here's Jean. I'm going to let the camera go back to her.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jean. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk again soon. I'll send you an email. Thank you so much.
Did anybody ask this question?
Okay.
Did she stay here in the
All righty. Bye-bye. Bye.
Does it